Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Sociology with Mahima. Today we are going to talk about hermeneutics, a very important concept in social science. Now, before we dive into its technical aspects, let's start with the word itself. The term hermeneutic actually comes from a Greek word hermeneuein, which means to interpret or to translate. So right from its root, hermeneutics is about making sense of something, conveying meaning or translating an idea from one form to another, whether it's words, symbols, or actions. Originally, the term hermeneutics was used in the context of interpreting sacred texts, such as the Bible or the Greek classics. In those times, people believed these texts contained deep, divine, or hidden truths that had to be properly understood and interpreted. So, early scholars developed methods to interpret what the author really meant, the context behind the words, and the true message of the text. That's how hermeneutics began, as a method of textual interpretation. Now, as philosophy and social sciences evolved, hermeneutics took on a much wider meaning. It came to be known as the theory and the method of interpretation, especially when it comes to text, language, and symbolic expressions. Now that we have understood what hermeneutics means, let's explore how it developed over time. At its very core, hermeneutics has always been about interpreting meaning, whether in text, events, or human experiences. The central idea is simple yet powerful. Human life and history are full of meaning, but this meaning is not always obvious. It has to be interpreted, understood, and translated, just like a text that needs decoding. It teaches us to look beneath the surface, to uncover what people meant when they acted, wrote, or spoke in a certain way. Although hermeneutics truly flourished later, its roots go all the way back to ancient Greece. In Greek culture, interpretation was a crucial practice, especially for mythology, literature, and philosophy. So, early Greek thinkers were already concerned with how language conveys meaning and how we interpret what we read or hear. During medieval times, hermeneutics took on a religious character. In this period, hermeneutics served as a mechanism for biblical understanding, helping people connect divine truth with human interpretation. As time passed, especially around the 17th to 19th century, hermeneutics gradually moved beyond religion and entered the realm of philosophy. Philosophical thinkers treated it not just a religious method, but a universal process of human understanding, something that applies to art, history, culture, and human experience in general. Finally, in the modern era, hermeneutics entered the field of social sciences and sociology. Sociologists realized that if we want to understand human behavior, we can't just measure it with statistics. We must also interpret it. So, hermeneutics became a mode of sociological inquiry used to interpret social life, culture, and human interaction. Now, let's move to one of the most important figures in the development of hermeneutics, Friedrich Schleiermacher. He is a key name you must remember, often called the father of modern hermeneutics. Friedrich Schleiermacher was a German theologian and philosopher. Now, before Schleiermacher time, hermeneutics was rather limited in its use. It was mainly applied to religious texts like the Bible or to legal documents, where the focus was simply on figuring out the intended meaning of a specific text. Schleiermacher transformed hermeneutics into what we now call a general theory of interpretation. He believed that interpretation isn't limited to religion or law. Instead, it's something that happens everywhere in human life. His main goal was to develop a universal method of understanding, a method that could be applied to any form of human expression. He believed that understanding is not automatic. It doesn't just happen on its own. In fact, according to him, misunderstanding is more natural than understanding. So, Schleiermacher wanted to find a way to reduce misunderstanding and promote deep, genuine understanding. He said that in order to really understand a text or any act of communication, we must go beyond the surface meaning of the words. This means reading beyond the text, trying to uncover the hidden meanings, emotions, and intentions that lie behind the written or spoken words. In short, he wanted interpretation to be empathetic and holistic, not mechanical or superficial. To achieve this deeper understanding, Schleiermacher divided interpretation into two key aspects: grammatical interpretation and psychological interpretation. Let's begin with the grammatical interpretation, which focuses primarily on language. Schleiermacher believed that before we can understand the deeper meaning of a text, we must first understand the language system through which that meaning is communicated. So, the main goal is here to find out what the author is saying. Grammatical interpretation seeks the objective meaning, the meaning that any rational reader could agree upon, based on the structure and rules of the language. Now, Schleiermacher said that even after we understand the grammar and structure of a text, that's not enough. Language alone doesn't reveal everything. To truly understand the text, we must also enter the mind of the author. This form of interpretation focuses on the inner world of the author. It's an attempt to reconstruct the mental state of the writer at the moment of the creation. This process is not mechanical, it's empathetic. The interpreter must imagine themselves in the author's situation, understanding their motivations, struggles, and emotional tone. So, while grammatical interpretation gives us objective meaning, psychological interpretation gives us subjective meaning. Now, let's talk about what it really means to understand a speech. The first step is to understand what is said, that is, the literal meaning of the words, sentences, and expressions used in the language. So, we must grasp what the words mean within the structure and possibilities of that particular language. But language alone is not enough. We also need to understand what the speaker meant. So, we try to understand the speech as a fact of the speaker's thinking. Now, let's understand two very influential thinkers, Auguste Comte and Wilhelm Dilthey. Auguste Comte is often called the founder of positivism, a philosophy that believes the method of natural sciences should also be applied to the study of society. Wilhelm Dilthey, founder of Hermeneutics human sciences, believed social life must be understood through interpretation of meanings. According to Comte, reality is objective, meaning it exists outside of us and can be measured empirically. He viewed society as made up of social facts, laws, norms, and structures that shape human behavior but exist independently. But for Dilthey, reality is subjective and historical. It is shaped by human experiences, cultural background, and intentions. He argued that the social world is a world of meanings created by people, and to study it, we must interpret those meanings through empathy and understanding. Comte emphasized that to truly understand society, we must rely on empirical, quantitative, and scientific methods, just like we do in physics or chemistry. Whereas Dilthey preferred interpretative and qualitative methods such as understanding text, culture, art, and historical context. Comte believed that humans can be studied just like natural phenomena, that is, the same way we study physical objects in nature. He argued that human behavior follows general laws, just like natural laws govern the physical world. Dilthey took a completely different stance. He believed that humans are not objects, but meaning-producing subjects, beings who live through emotions, experiences, and intentions. Therefore, their behavior cannot be explained by general laws as in natural sciences. From Auguste Comte's perspective, the researcher must be neutral, detached, and objective, meaning the sociologist should not get emotionally involved or interpret things subjectively. But according to Dilthey, the researcher should not stay detached. Instead, they must enter the world of the subject, feel their emotions, understand their motives, and interpret their meanings. This approach makes social science human-centered, focusing on depth and understanding rather than measurement and objectivity. Comte rejected the idea of hermeneutics because he considered it unscientific and too subjective. He wanted sociology to be a positive science, guided by facts, evidence, and universal laws, much like biology or physics. Unlike Comte, Dilthey supported and developed hermeneutics, believing it was essential to truly understand the human world because human reality is lived, experienced, and interpreted, not merely observed. Now, let's talk about 𝐔𝐞𝐫𝐦𝐞𝐬 Gadamer, one of the most significant modern philosophers in the field of hermeneutics. Hans-Georg Gadamer was a German philosopher who deeply influenced how we think about interpretation and understanding. He believed that interpretation is not limited to reading books or studying art. Rather, it is something we constantly do in our lives, even in everyday conversations and experiences. Gadamer argued that understanding is a universal process that exists in every form of human interaction, whether we are talking to someone, reading a poem, studying history, or even observing a social event. According to him, every act of knowing, communicating, or experiencing the world involves the interpretation. Gadamer said that if one were to take seriously the claim of understanding being a category of life, then one could not see hermeneutics narrowly as a methodological tool, but one had to instead speak of universal hermeneutics since all human experience has a hermeneutic dimension. In simple terms, Gadamer is saying if understanding is part of being alive, then hermeneutics is a part of everything we do. This idea expands hermeneutics beyond an academic method and turns it into a philosophy of life, a way of seeing how humans relate to the world and to one another through meaning and interpretation. Let's explore how Heidegger completely transformed the concept of the hermeneutic circle, turning it from a simple method of interpretation into a profound philosophy about human existence and understanding. Before Heidegger, the hermeneutic circle was understood mainly in a methodological sense. The idea was simple. To understand a text as a whole, you must first understand its part, like sentences or words, and to understand each part, you must have a sense of the whole. So, understanding was seen as a back and forth movement from parts to whole and whole to parts. Martin Heidegger gave this concept a radically new and deeper meaning. Heidegger argued that the hermeneutic circle is not just a method for interpreting text. It is a fundamental structure of human existence itself. In his famous work, Being and Time, Heidegger explains that understanding is not something we do occasionally. It is an essential way of being in the world. We are always interpreting ourselves, others, and the world around us. So, he takes hermeneutics beyond textual interpretation and makes it a philosophy of existence. Heidegger says that the hermeneutic circle is not a problem to solve or escape as earlier thinkers saw it, but rather it is the very condition of human understanding. Jürgen Habermas was a German philosopher and sociologist who sought to move beyond both traditional hermeneutics and positivism. He argued that these approaches were limited because they failed to uncover the deeper layers of social meaning and hidden power relations that shape human understanding. Habermas introduced the concept of depth hermeneutics, inspired by psychoanalysis, as a method that combines explanation and understanding within a framework of methodological self-reflection. Through this approach, he aimed to reveal the unconscious structures and distortions that influence communication, ideology, and social behavior, making interpretation not just about meaning but also emancipation. That's all for today's video. Thank you for joining the class. See you in the next video.